Hello everyone. We have a new game with the white pieces against Theory 2A. Rated 1745. Super high. We start with the bishop's opening and he plays this weird queen move. I'm going to develop my bishop. He's going to go for scholar's mate or something. Whatever. So we'll just develop a piece towards the center. He develops a piece, goes for scholar's mate. We could stop it with queen e7, queen e2. We could stop it with the knight out. We can, does queen g4 work? Let him take with check. You move your king over. That's kind of scary, but I'm not going to do that. Let's just bring our queen here. Protect the pawn. He goes c6, which tries to control the center from our knight jump. In that case, we'll just develop our other knight to its most natural square. Hit the center. He plays b5, which hits our bishop. We're simply going to drop it back, no big deal. He plays a5, threatening to trap the bishop, so we can't allow that. You could play a3 or a4. Let's play a4, attack the pawn. The pawn pushes. Now it's hitting the knight. The knight doesn't have many squares, so we're going to drop it here and reroute it through e3. And black gained some space, but now their pawns are fixed and I can break it down at any time. He goes h6, which is a little bit of a weird move, but I don't mind seeing it. So I think I am going to break this down because if I could play d4, I want to, right? And it would be nice if there was a pawn on c3 supporting that. So by going c3 here, I'm attacking his structure and supporting the d4 pawn break. So he goes d6, defending the center, opening the bishop. We could play d4 here. Takes, takes. Takes, takes. Queen takes at the end. That's playable, but I say let's castle. We want our king safe before we open the center, for sure. Black develops a minor piece, pins the knight. Maybe threatens to double our pawn structure, but at the cost of giving us his bishop. Also, maybe we don't even have to trade queens. We can leave them on the board. Who knows? Okay, we can't really play d4, especially now that their knight's pinned. That's one less defender. So let's just play d3 and open up our bishop and our knight. You know, keep it simple. So he does go for this. Do we take back with or without the queen trade? So if we don't do that, and he just throws in a check and we slide over, and he brings his knight out, let's say. I mean, there's no reason to keep our queen boxed in while his is active, so let's get the queen trade to balance out the activity, at least as far as the queens are concerned. And now he develops his knight, and there's no threats, and this f-pawn can actually be an asset by helping us break and helping support the center. We still can't play d4 because it hangs, but we can improve our knight to here and to f5. Knights are slow, clunky pieces, so let's move them first. If he takes, you could take with the bishop. You could also improve your center by taking back with the pawn. But that would block your bishop, so you'd have to spend more tempi going the other way, which is annoying. So, I mean, the position's pretty equal. And black goes g6. What does this threaten? Nothing, it just stops our knight f5 move. Drawback, weaken some dark squares. But like I said, we can't hop our knight in. We can hop our knight into c4, however. And that is a square. And I do like that square. We even have g4, but that looks less appetizing. There's also f4 with the idea, like you want him to take so that you could push in the center. It just doesn't work because your knight's hanging. So let's go knight c4, improving move, pressuring 3 pawns, opening that square for the bishop. And I like white's position overall. Okay, h5. What does this threaten? Nothing. Drawback. Gives up control over the g5 square, so now I can immediately go there with a threat if I want. I could also go bishop here. They're both good. Bishop defends this pawn. Although this is a weird move. Where can he move his knight? He can't. I mean, let's just say he goes back. What am I doing with my bishop there? Okay, so instead, let's just go and counteract his most active piece, his only active piece really, and he just castles and ignores us. I don't know what all this was about, h5 setup, but okay, so he does that, he castles, but now I can mess up his pawn structure here. I don't think he should have let me do that, because it's a lot worse than mine over here. Mine over here is not bad really, but his two over here are definitely weaker, will be weaker than my double pawns. So I'm going to take that. And he has to take back, but that undefends the center, so is that a free pawn? This. No moves. Let's take the free pawn and prevent this knight from developing, because we'll take another pawn. So now we're up a central pawn, and he was playing fine, but now we're just winning. Because we have an unbreakable center now with f4, and he doesn't have this pawn to, you know, contest us. Okay. He is protecting this square one more time against the knight and bishop combo, but he's failing to realize that this pawn's pinned, so we can actually win this pawn for free. Hit the rook. Now we're up 2 pawns. This wouldn't be possible if this h5 pawn was back on h7. So just moving it randomly, you can see how it weakens squares. So he moves his rook, and this attacks our pawn. Let's go back to the center, defend our pawn, attack these 2 pawns. He moves his king up, but we can actually now utilize the open G file to harass him. I don't know exactly why I moved his king up other than to keep this stuff defended, but I'm going to move my king over to h1, very safe square, and I'm going to try to use my 10 points of rooks down the G file. So he attacks my knight with his rook, but like I said, we have the unbreakable f4 center. But I'm going to throw in the check, because checks are free, and he goes back. Okay, now you could actually go rook g5 and protect the knight, because it pressures the pawn and allows you to double, so let's do that. Actually, I'm running out of time. Well, yeah, let's do that anyway. I was going to say let's just go f4 for safety, so I don't have to calculate stuff, because I don't have time, but it'll be fine. It will be fine. I'm up 2 pawns. Even if I had to, worst case scenario, sack the knight for 1 pawn, then material would be even. But his king would have 0 cover, so that would be fun to play. Okay, so he pushes a pawn, which cannot be the best move because it's random. We're going to double our rooks. Now he can't move the knight because of checkmate. And since he can't move the knight, maybe we'll attack it. Like, Knight g4 hits the knight, but he just sacked the exchange. So I'm going to take that. Okay, so he's trying to break through. Not a bad idea, all things considered. He's threatening this pawn. We could allow it, we could disallow it. But I'm going to disallow it, not because I care about the pawn, but because I want to hit the knight and aim at the king anyway. Okay, so he brings in a knight, reinforcing the knight. That's fine. But now we line up with all of his pieces, and I don't know what he does with his rook. He can't avoid, like he can't move the rook, right? So it's gone. His only rook is gone, and that's not good for him, because we're up a lot of material, and that rook was the active piece, you know, trying to take some pawns and equalize the game somehow, but that's never going to happen now. Let's put the bishop back on its active diagonal, because that's where it belongs. And now we want our king in the game as well. We don't want it in the corner. Okay, he's moving his knights around. He wants to play this, right, to hit our bishop. But now he doesn't have that pawn to push. And now we're threatening everything. And this was a pretty good game overall. By this 1750. He moves his king. This attacks our rook, but hangs this pawn. This pawn is also hanging. This is actually a fork. Okay, so he defends against the fork, but it still hangs the pawn. I'm now going to maybe try to push these pawns and see what happens. Maybe I could win a piece there. Okay, so he puts his knight here. I guess it blocks the rook in a way. That's fine. My rook is kind of cut off with this knight here, so I'm just gonna, you know, choose a different open line. Okay, he takes a pawn, but I don't really care. I'm gonna get my king in the game. I'm gonna eat this guy. Okay, he takes another pawn. That's fine too. Like I said, let's just eat this guy. He'll hop his knights around the board, do a little dance. Okay, now he's going for this guy. My rook is still cut off over here, so let's get it to a much more open thing with a threat while defending the pawn. It's not so much to defend the pawn, but you might as well since you're improving the rook. Okay, he's obviously setting up threats and stuff, but it's a weird move. Now his knights defend each other. And now when I attack them both, and then here, what happens? This is confusing. Doesn't he lose something? I feel like he loses something. I guess he has a check. And then I go here, and he loses it. If he goes here, you just take that one. Okay. Well, we'll take that. Whatever, let's just take the knight with the rook and run the pawn. He's gonna get one too, but we have like 1,000 more than him. We have 2 more pawns, not 1,000 more. We have 2 more pawns than him, and so it doesn't matter that we're giving back a knight and giving back pawns because we're just gonna get rid of all of his stuff. See? It's just so much easier this way. And to figure out like all of his knight jumps, all my rook moves, blah blah blah. So let's get a computer analysis, and this was a pretty decent game by him. Put up a good fight. He played a lot of the ideas that black was supposed, black was supposed to play. So So we get a bishop's opening on the board, and I mean, this was a dumb move, but it's not like the biggest deal ever. So I put my knight here. I have 93% accuracy, but one mistake. 4 inaccuracies and 1 mistake. So I'm curious about the mistake. So he develops the bishop, threatens mate. Okay, of course you could obviously develop your knight, like I said. I just chose to do the queen. Now I do the knight towards the center, and our position looks good already. This is a forced move. Oh, you can. Oh, you can play d4 early, because if he takes, you could just push, and you have knight e4 there. Oh, that's actually a really good idea. So if you go here, if he takes with the bishop, and then the queen has to move, and it says you're +2 because he has no development. You have 3 pieces, you're ready to castle. Wow, that's cool. And if he takes with the pawn, then we just push. He goes queen somewhere, and instead of +2, we're +1. Like I said, we jump our knight in the center, and that looks really cool. We sack the pawn, but his own pawn's blocking his bishop. We can probably take it back if we really want it one day, but our position's just nice. He can't develop. What if he goes f5? Then we take the bishop. If he goes a5, takes. Wait, what's this line? Ah, we get this one. Okay, so I played one of the moves. d4 and a4 are the top moves, so I played a4, my second inaccuracy. He pushes past, and they still want the d4 idea. I said I wanted to make it, I just didn't look at this e5 pawn push, which I should have. So if you're not going to do this, the next best move is to put your knight here. So knight d1. He makes a random move. What did it say about c3? Is that a move? Yeah, c3 is a move. Castle's a move. c3, d, all the arrows you see. c3, d3, knight here. All normal stuff. We go for c3. And again, all the same moves. Castle, d3, d4. We castle. Positions equal. He develops his bishop. And we play d3. Normal move, opening the bishop. He takes, a forced move. What does computer say? You can take either way, doesn't matter. And again, we still have plus 0.3 advantage, which is what you start the game with, so it's equal. Okay, my mistake is coming soon. Okay. I played knight in here, makes sense. And then because he stopped my f5 idea, we changed squares to c4, which the computer likes. Good. Now we're plus 0.8. He makes this super weird move, and suddenly we're plus 2.8. And this is where I made my mistake, because if you don't play d4 here, you're only plus 1.1. So I did not find, it's not like I made a move that was weakening towards our position. I just didn't find the best move. The best move is d4. After he takes, if you just take, he takes. Ah, that releases control over this. I didn't look at that either. Also, what else do we have? Anything else here? Is pushing an option? Hitting the knight. He could just take. Ah, knight takes d6. That's a good one. But is this really plus 3? Material's even. Queens are off the board. So the fact his king looks dumb shouldn't be as important. But I suppose this comes with immediate threats on f7. which we can take. Yeah, I mean the computer says this is +3, but it I don't I don't know exactly the right moves to play. I don't know if I would keep that evaluation. Interesting. So d4. Yeah, that would require a lot of really like calculation to convince me because my structure's so nice. I don't know. So I played the plus 1.2 move, which is my mistake. Yeah, I guess the other line at least won that pawn. F7 pawn at the very least. Okay, so he castles. We take the pawn because that wins central free stuff. More free stuff. And now it's +3 again. You see, this is the +3 I wanted. A very solid and obvious to see +3. Okay, we move our knight back and threaten more stuff and defend. Then the game's over because he already blundered the center. So we didn't have to do anything crazy. We just stood our course and waited for him to hang something. Out of curiosity, when they do go this ridiculous move, you play the knight out, they play the bishop out, you play the knight out. Let's say they go c6 to stop your knight, and you just castle. They play d6, and you play d4. If they take with the bishop, you take their bishop, they take, and again you push. They'll probably take with the pawn, and then you push f5. So this is plus 3.6 if you play f4. See, this is what they need to teach better. This is what they need to explain better. I don't know who they is, but... So you go f4, but if you give this position to a bunch of players and say, what's the eval? How many are going to tell you +4? I mean, the good ones will, but not me. I mean, yeah, if he takes, but he's not going to take. I guess if you take, you're opening up the F file on F7, so the entire position collapses. So I guess you could just say it's completely losing. But to see this here when you're playing d4, you have to play d4, and then what if he takes with the pawn and not the bishop? You're going for the same e5 pawn push. But in this line, it's different than the other one because he can take with the pawn here, which makes it look even more solid for black. Now your knight's hanging. They're saying you can even take this because of the rook, of course. You hit the queen and it's almost trapped, and then everything collapses. That's so weird. So this is just terrible. Okay, so queen f6 is just terrible if you can follow it up like an engine. Alright, so I'm going to try to keep this in the back of my mind. Hopefully I won't forget it, but I don't know how many people are going to play queen f6 against me, so. Still, the whole push d4 and then consider, you know, the e5 pawn push. I think that's an idea I should have paid attention to and didn't. Overall, still a good game. You know, but anything above 90% accuracy, you should definitely be happy with. But you should also definitely go over mistakes and blunders. So, Hopefully this explains a little something, a little bit about chess eval to you. Good luck in your chess. Submit your games in my Discord. Goodbye.